What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. New video. So today, this morning, June 29th, 2026, at the Bertie-Martin Regional Detention Center, a jail in the eastern portion of North Carolina, 88 inmates overpowered 3 jail guards, sheriffs, whatever they are over there in North Carolina. One of the guards ran, leaving the other 2 to be taken hostage. And part of the facility was taken over by the inmates. After several hours of negotiations, the 2 guards were released. Other inmates were released. By the afternoon, the cops, the authorities, law enforcement had taken control back. The inmates had given up their whatever they were holding, right? As far as the facility, what they were holding, they must have went back into their cells, laid down, whatever it was. Since then, a bunch of inmates have been transferred out to other facilities. Obviously, they're not going to keep all these guys together. Now, with that said, knowing that, here's my guess as to what's happening. And this is only speculation. I don't know how they do things in North Carolina. And before I even get into the speculation, let's do this. Previously, I mentioned the East Coast Crips. Shout out to the East Coast Crips. The East Coast Crips, here in the California Department of Corrections, I'll just speak of one incident that I know pretty much a lot about it, because one of the guys involved was my coworker in the kitchen in New Folsom, right? There was a female sergeant that disrespected one of the East Coast Crips. And he told his homies, like, man, I try to go over there, and I try to ask about this and that, and you know, this chick, you know, this is what she did, this is what she said. And the East Coast Crips have a reputation. When it comes to cops, they have no patience for COs in the California Department of Corrections. So immediately, the East Coast start huddling up. They all want to go in the program office. Nowadays, because of the East Coast Crips, there's fences around, high fences that are closed off around the doorway, the entryway into the program offices in the California Department of Corrections. This is prior to those gates, those fences. These guys all want to go, and they had to say no. They had to keep some of their homies on the yard, you know, for their presence, right? So they drew straws, sticks, whatever it was. I don't know what they actually were, but they drew, and the ones that got, you know, the right one for them were going. They did what they did. They ran up in the program office. They whacked every CO they could get their hands on, including that female sergeant. Afterwards, so here in California, if you assault a guard, you're going to get moved to the nearest prison. You're not going to stay in that prison. However, before you get that transfer, you will get your ass thoroughly whooped in that institution. And then the receiving institution will beat the brakes off you. So in this situation that I'm talking about with the East Coast, my coworker told me they beat him down. They sent him to Corcoran Shoe. These guys hadn't been assessed their shoe terms yet, but they sent him to Corcoran Shoe. When they got to Corcoran Shoe, that's when they still had the Sharks, the cop gang called the Sharks in Corcoran. And they would wear black ski masks. When the buses would pull up or when they were going to do anything, they had black ski masks to cover their face. They didn't have their name tags on. So the bus pulls up, and they came on the bus, and they said, who wants to be first? My coworker said one of his homeboys jumped up, and he said what his name was, and he was from East Coast Crip, and they snatched him up, and his feet never touched the ground. Carried him off, whooping him the whole way. And they came in again. Who's next? Boom. And every one of the East Coast jumped up, said their name, and banged where they were from. My coworker said when it was his turn, he had to do the same, follow suit. Those are his homeboys. He's riding with them. He said as they were whooping him, he saw like dust bunnies, like blowing in the wind, and he was getting his ass whooped, but he could see it. And he's like, "What the fuck is that?" Like, out of anything to notice, right? And then he found out they were taking him, they were beating him down, and then they'd hold him down, and they were shaving portions of their hair, not all of it, but so they had like a braid, and they would rip, cut certain braids off, and the rest were braids, or they had a afro, and parts of it were now chopped off, and they were beating him down and making fun of it. He said they threw them in the cell in Corcoran Shoe, still handcuffed, and left them there for hours. When they finally took their cuffs off, they got to relax for a second. And he said in the next morning, the cops came through. Hey, anybody need medical? And the East Coast, they said, yeah, I need some medical, man. Okay, come on. They pulled him out, took him to the rotunda, and beat him down again and told him that's your medical and put him back in the cell. So that's been the history of California. You touch a CO in California's prison system, you are going to get whooped up in that institution, transferred to another one, and get whooped up some more. There have also been inmates who, there was a Southerner who he whacked a sergeant in a prison. They sent him to Tehachapi with 2 broken arms. The next day, he was found hanging in a cell. How do you hang yourself with 2 broken arms? Tehachapi has a lot of priors. But anyways, so I don't know what they do in North Carolina. I do know what they're saying so far is they've separated some of the inmates. They've transferred them off to other county facilities. These guys, this being a county jail, a county detention center, I don't know what type of time these guys are looking at. But I'll tell you this. Right now, the authorities know every detail. It never fails. Everybody that was there wasn't a participant. You got guys that are doing wino time, meaning they're going home in 30 days, 10 days, 90 days, whatever. They're not looking at anything serious. All the cops got to do is say, we're charging you with this. This is a life crime, this and this, that. They'll give up everything in a heartbeat. There's people, I'm hearing that there's people that are tripping on that there was 88 inmates and 3 guards. That doesn't seem too crazy to me. I think in California it's 1 for every 20. So maybe there should have been 4 cops. But I think all inmates, convicts, guards, correctional officers understand. When these guards go into a jail, they're outnumbered no matter what. It's as long as certain lines don't get crossed, there's no reason for the convicts or the inmates to even waste their time or pay any attention to what the guards are doing. Most convicts and inmates understand the guards are babysitters. They're there to collect a check and pick up the bodies. When the incident's over, then they work. Usually the problems occur when guards or correctional officers decide that they're crime fighters, that they're working in the jail to solve crimes. No, you're not. No, you're not. You want to solve crimes, get out on the streets. Become a detective. Something like that, right? And who knows what this started over, but I can guarantee you, the inmates, I can't guarantee you. Never mind. Let me take that back. I can't guarantee you. From my personal experience, everyone knows when you mess with the cops, your program is going to be different. Being it was a county jail, being it was North Carolina, I don't know. You know, California is different. Even in the county jails, there's a lot of money that can be made. There's a lot of politics anywhere in California jails, whether it's a county facility or a state prison. And the politics of each group dictate their interactions with the guards. It also dictates the reactions to the guards. I'm sure those guards are shook, but they knew the job was dangerous when they took it. In the next few days, we'll get a narrative. We'll get the guards' narrative. Because if it was something that the guards were doing that was really scandalous, that the inmates felt this was crossing the line and going too far, I doubt we're going to hear about that from the state, from law enforcement. We may have to wait for that to come out in an interview with one of these inmates when they're released from detention or when they're sentenced to prison, you know, and they get a hold of a cell phone or something like that. But I just figured I'd give my 2 cents. I don't think that those inmates got off on those guards just for nothing. You know, when you are doing time, you understand. Unfortunately, while you're there doing that time, while you're serving your time, that's your house, not your home. Home is where the heart is. That's a fact. But that's your house. The guards, the cops, they go home every day. They're visitors. They're babysitters. And if a guard comes in and he had a bad day with his wife, you leave that between you and your wife. But when you come in and you're having problems with your wife and you take it out on an inmate, that inmate is going to possibly remind you you're in his house. You got to live by his rules. Jail and prison is not a fun place to be, people. Stay out of them. That's my video for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them, man. I'm out of here.